Hello and welcome back to Game of Trades, your number one channel for videos on the stock market and cryptocurrencies. This video is going to be focused on Bitcoin. This has definitely been a difficult past few weeks for Bitcoin investors. We've seen the relationship that we've talked about, which is the correlation between the 10-year government bond yield and Bitcoin. That relationship is breaking. And we're seeing Bitcoin fall with yields rising. Is this going to last? Is this actually a signal for much more downside on Bitcoin? We're going to talk about that. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly whether or not this relationship is broken for good. And you'll know what to do about your Bitcoin here, whether it's time to aggressively step in and buy the dip or dump your assets before we break down. If you're interested in following this crazy asset with us, make sure to click on that subscribe button. And now without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, if you don't know about the correlation that we've been talking about between the 10-year yield and Bitcoin, you can go and check out the thread that we made on Twitter. It's a pinned tweet on our profile, and we talk about this relationship one step at a time throughout the entire cycle. We go through each bull market, each bear market, exceptions, and why they occurred. Now, typically what happens when you have rising yields, what happens in the financial system is that you have a lot of risk on trades go higher. So things like small caps, biotech, and a lot of other trades that are considered risky by investors, they tend to outperform. And that's what we saw throughout 2020 and 2021. It was the ideal moment to be invested in Bitcoin and also in other risk on assets like small caps that just performed extremely well throughout that period. And it also worked throughout this period. In August and October of 2021, we saw bond yields rise and risk on assets like Bitcoin rise with it. So what's going on right now? Why is that not following? A lot of people are very concerned about that, and I believe it has to do with the rate at which bond yields are rising. It's spooking a lot of investors. You have the Federal Reserve announce monetary tightening. They announced quantitative tightening as well. Investors see bond yields rising. That's a form of natural monetary tightening. And all of that is creating a type of uncertain environment across the financial markets. Right, we're seeing the S&P 500 drop down very rapidly. We also saw the tech sector, the NASDAQ 100, make a quick 9% correction here. So it's definitely scaring investors. It's having an impact on the financial markets. But once that panic is over, once that's done, and you see the money that's been flowing out of the bond market, right, that's been pushing yields higher. This is what's causing rising yields. You're seeing bond prices tank. That's investors taking money out of bonds. And once that scare is done, it's going to be going as usual, as it always does, into risk on assets like Bitcoin, like small caps, and like many of the other trades that we have on the watch list. We have a series of trades that we're watching from week to week for opportunities. We base it on our macro strategy. We base it on what we think is happening with growth, inflation, monetary policy. And then we talk about the technicals and how we think we can take advantage of those trades in the best possible way. So I think that's the best summary of what's happening from a macro standpoint. I think what's happening on the bond market, the movement out of treasury bonds, is such a beautiful development for an asset like Bitcoin. It's everything that we could have hoped for, and I think it's going to be reflected on the price within the next few weeks. Now let's take a look at the technical picture on Bitcoin, because I do want to highlight something very important, and that is the first daily divergence between the price and the momentum. And what do I mean by that? Look at what's happening here. We have this downtrend and we have this low from this big candlestick wick, and we have this lower low on the price. So that's a downtrend, and yet you have the MACD, a momentum indicator, that's telling you that momentum is actually going up. So that's divergence. That's a very useful tool to tell you when you're going to get a trend change. And if you were back with us back in June, you'll know that we talked about this exact same divergence right here in June 2021. We said this is bullish divergence on Bitcoin. That doesn't happen every day, and it especially doesn't happen very much when the macro environment is telling you it's going to go higher. You had a lower low on the price and a higher low on the MACD that marked the bottom of what was then a 140% rally from that bottom. It's just crazy how well Bitcoin responds to these momentum divergences. You can see back here at the April high, you had higher highs on Bitcoin's price, and yet the MACD was telling you, nope, we're going lower. You had the same thing back here in this September correction, higher highs on the price, lower highs on the MACD that triggered a nice correction. Same thing here. And we called this one. We called the top back in November in this video from November 14th, where we talked about this divergence between the price and the RSI, and we would likely see a nice correction. The big mistake we made here is that we didn't expect it to break down below this price channel. But now what's different this time is that we have bullish divergence on the MACD right here. And, frankly, it's quite amazing to see Bitcoin respond extremely well to these setups. And when I see this type of chart from lookintobitcoin.com showing you the crypto fear and greed index that's currently at extreme fear, it gives me a lot of confidence. This is the type of development you see towards market bottoms, and definitely not before you get major moves down on the asset. So we've covered the fact that the macro was bullish. The technicals so far are bullish. The sentiment right now is bullish. Just quickly take a look at that. We're at the same level as we were back in January. Now, back in January of 2021 now, a lot of people say that's disappointing and that returns have been flat and that Bitcoin is now dead. But just look at the difference. Bitcoin was in full euphoria mode here, telling you it was coming closer and closer to a top. Now, a year later, we're at the same level, but investor sentiment is all the way down at the opposite side of the scale, telling you a bottom is very close. That is what you call investor psychology in a fundamentally bullish asset, in a fundamentally bullish macro environment. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, make sure to click on the like button to let us know. It really helps our videos get pushed out to a wider audience by the YouTube algorithm. So if you're enjoying this episode, make sure to take a couple of seconds to do that. It is really appreciated. By the way, if you're interested in Bitcoin as an asset class, you're looking to trade, invest in it, make sure to go ahead and check out our website at gameoftrades.net. We use our expertise in technical analysis, inter-market analysis. We take a look at the macro environment, and we use all that to give you guys a full picture every week on Bitcoin and whether or not it's a good idea to be entering the asset. And I do want to make one thing clear. The primary reason why we're bullish on Bitcoin right now is because of the macro environment. And when the macro environment begins to flip and we think that there's going to be movement back into the bond market and into assets like gold, we're going to be turning bearish on Bitcoin, and we're going to be selling and booking profits on our positions when Bitcoin is a lot higher. I don't think it's going to be a smooth ride from here. I think there's going to be a lot of volatility, and we have every intention from benefiting on the way up and on the way down. If you're interested in doing that with us, make sure to go and test out the free trial. Take a look at the articles that we post on Bitcoin and on what's happening with the economy. Now, that's about all I wanted to cover in this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to click on that like button. And now, in the meantime, I wish you good luck on your trading and see you next time.